afternoon, everyone. A very wonderful, happy Women's Day to all of you. Today is a day of celebration, reflection, and empowerment. As we gather here for this special occasion of International Women's Day, we take a moment to recognize the strength, resilience, and contributions of the incredible women around us. At Seeger International Group, we truly believe in supporting and uplifting our women, not just professionally, but also in every aspect of life. Our health and well being is the better way to do that than by prioritizing something that matters most. To help us gain valuable insights on this, we are honored to have with us Dr. Deepali Prabhat, a well-known gynecologist, obstetrician, and lifestyle medicine practitioner. With her deep expertise and passion for women's health, she has been a guiding force in promoting wellness and self-care. Before we begin this insightful session, I would like to invite Ms. Mishwari to introduce our esteemed guest, Dr. Deepali.
Thank you so much, Divyanka ma'am. So, very good afternoon to Dr. Deepali ma'am. So, Dr. Deepali Prabhat is a consultant, obstetrician and gynecologist at Shushrusha Citizens Cooperative and Raheja Potters Hospital with more than 25 years of experience. She also holds a master's in population science from IIPS and a diploma in lifestyle medicine from the International Board of Lifestyle Medicine. Her areas of special interest are fertility, endoscopy, and preventive gynecology. Outside of her professional life, she is also passionate about cooking, dance, and travel. Dr. Deepali Prabhat will be sharing her valuable insights and expertise on women's health. Without further delay, we now turn the session over to Dr. Deepali Prabhat to continue with the webinar. Over to you, Dr. Deepali ma'am.
Thank you, Ishwari, for the kind introduction. And let me at the outset wish all you beautiful women a very happy International Women's Day. You may know that the theme for this year's International Day is Accelerate Action, okay, it's a worldwide call to acknowledge strategies, resources, and activities that positively impact women's advancement and to support and elevate their implementation. Okay, so what I am going to take you through in this next brief, like we have about 30 minutes I've told, through this same call for action that you can take as individuals for your own personal journey, because you should always start from oneself and then you can make an impact for all people around you. So the first part of the talk, I will want to focus on lifestyle strategies because they are common throughout life, irrespective of age and many times irrespective of gender as well. So the 6 pillars of lifestyle medicine, which is basically a branch which deals with evidence-based intervention. That means we have enough research to prove that this works. Evidence-based interventions in nutrition, which is the first pillar, physical activity, sleep, stress management, avoidance of toxic substances, and positive social connection. So these are 6 pillars of lifestyle medicine, and I'm going to briefly give you small tips or takeaways that you should focus on these 6 pillars for all your life. Okay, so as far as nutrition is concerned, right now we are living in a very obesogenic environment. That means we really don't have control over things that are offered to us. Okay, so we have to be very mindful and aware of what we are putting on our plates and in our mouths. So as far as nutrition goes, we have to try to eat a predominantly whole food plant-based diet. What it means is, if you have a plate which represents either a single meal or your entire food that you're going to consume in a day, half of it should be vegetables. Okay, so vegetables and some amount of fruits which are preferably seasonal. Okay, they are local and if possible organic. Okay, so this is how half your plate is going to be. 1/4 of the plate should be a protein rich food source. Now you get proteins in plant-based food as well as animal-based foods. So plant-based foods which are rich in protein are dal, legumes, green leafy vegetables, and animal-based foods are your fish, chicken, eggs, meat, etc. So I want all of you to visualize your daily plate. What you have for breakfast, what you have for lunch, and what you have for dinner. So try to figure out a protein-rich food source to start with, and see to it that you are adding double the amount of vegetables. It may be in the raw form or it may be in the cooked form. And the third quarter of your plate has to be a grain. Okay, and preferably that grain, as least processed it is better. So in a whole form, that means the way it is available in nature, it comes to you, and then you have to minimally process it in the form of cooking it. Okay, but anything that goes through a factory or a plant, it becomes highly processed, and it is the ultra processed foods that are very bad for our health because they have lot of preservatives, additives for increasing their shelf life, and they're not particularly good for health. So this is the tip on nutrition. As far as physical activity is concerned, we are meant to be active. Okay, our ancestors not very long ago had to really hunt and gather for their food, and after the industrial revolution we are becoming more and more sedentary. We spend 8 to 10 hours on our desk. Okay, so that is something which our body has not adapted to, that kind of sedentary life. So we need to move. So physical activity, just being more active than sitting, is going to be better for your health. If you can factor in exercise in your routine, okay, start from anything from 2 minutes to 10 minutes to 15 minutes to about 45 minutes to an hour. If you can do it 5 days per week, and you should have an activity that you enjoy doing, because then only you're more likely to take it forward. So it can be a sport, it can be walking, it can be dancing, anything. Okay, and as you grow older, we realize our muscles go on becoming weaker. So we need to add something that makes the muscle grow, which is strength training. Okay, strength training is when any muscle activity is done under some resistance. It could be resistant bands, it could be weights, it could be a yoga posture which allows you to take your own body weight for a particular amount of time. So you need a good mix of aerobic exercise, which basically increases your heart rate and makes your heart fit, and you require strength training, which is for muscle building, because that's very important for good aging. And the last is flexibility and balance. So yoga is particularly very, very good for flexibility and balance, because you need to age gracefully, and functionally you need to be well. So that is the second pillar, which is physical activity. The third pillar, which is to me in this age is very, very important, is sleep. Okay, we are completely out of our ambition and our zeal to do everything. See, women nowadays are not ordinary women, they are super women. Okay, they do jobs, they will manage their home, they will cook dabba for the whole family, they will cook dabba for themselves, they'll carry the dabba, they will come home, work whole day, come home, again make dinner. And that is how women are. That is what I see most of the times, women are struggling, and then they barely get 5 to 6 hours of sleep. And that definitely, reflects on health, because your body needs that 7 hours of sleep in a circadian rhythm. That means you need to sleep latest by 11 o'clock. Whatever your time of sleeping now, try to push it early, and reframe your day routine so that you are able to sleep on time and you get that sleep. Because while you are young, you will not understand the consequences, but all these then show up as chronic diseases in your 40s and 50s. So sleep is very, very important. Then the fourth pillar is avoidance of toxic substances. So all of us know the obvious ones, which is alcohol, smoking, or any consumption of tobacco in any form. These are and the third is of course drugs, which is very well known. But there are so many toxins in our environment which we are not aware of. Like the air pollution is the biggest reason for increase in cancers around us. So you have to see that you have good amount of plants around you, if at all they will purify the air around you. Whatever personal care products you are using or household products you are using, do read the label and just see what are the chemicals in that, and see if you can replace it with a more natural thing. So this is how you can reduce the toxic load on the body. So anything that you use on the skin, around you, or what you eat. So here the labeling of reading the food labels becomes very, very important. If you see like numbers and things which you have never heard of, then they are more likely to be chemicals and preservatives which are not very good for your health. So anytime you buy anything from a store, please flip the packet and read the label. The last one is positive social connection. So for us humans, we need people around you. Okay? It's not enough to be just virtually connected with people. You need to speak to other humans. You need to interact with your human, and this is the single most important factor for longevity. Okay? So if you consider all the 5 pillars, they are less important compared to the last one, and we are increasingly seeing people getting isolated, lonely, not having enough friends, not well connected to families. So that is something. Now you are such a big family of Seagull, and I think that is doing wonders to your health. Just being around with more people and having good relationships, that is very, very important. So these are the tips for your lifestyle. Now lifestyle is what? It is habits that you pick up right from your childhood. So now I'm going to take you through a journey of a woman from birth till whatever, it's like womb to tomb. So when a child is born, okay, many times a lot of the genetic predispositions get determined inside when she is in the mother's womb. Okay, so what a pregnant woman, what lifestyle habits she adopts during her pregnancy are going to determine the health of the newborn. So all these pillars are very, very important to be followed during pregnancy. Now, as soon as the child is born, the first 1,000 days or 3 years are very, very important for the child. Okay? It has to get the best nutrition. All these habits that we form have to be so. If we try giving children a lot of processed foods and convenient foods, that is not going to help. So we have to see to it that we make good habits in children. So don't give them salt or sugar in the first 2 years of life. Try to introduce them to all different tastes of vegetables, fruits, dal, legumes, everything by age 1. So that is what I'm trying to tell you to young mothers. And then, of course, we know physical activity, children require much more, sleep, they require much more, because all the neural connections or the brain growth is happening rapidly in this period of early childhood. And of course, our brain keeps on growing even when we are older. That is why all these connections and relationships become so important. Try to learn a new thing. So our brain is plastic or growing all through life. So that is what is important in childhood to make a solid foundation of good habits. Sleeping on time, eating the right things, allowing the children to play. It's not, children will go to school and then go to tuitions, and all these things really don't matter in the long term. And health and your general performance is very, very different as you grow older. So please don't burden the children with stress. Now, one big pillar of stress management, which I did not cover in the 6th pillar, is stress has become the main problem for all health conditions. So, stress is not something which is related to the situation. It is related to how a person responds to it or reacts to it. So, you have to become resilient and find your own tools to manage stress. Many people can do it through exercise, some people can do it through therapy or counseling, some people can do it through hobbies, painting. So anything that tool that you can use to manage your stress is very important. And children are also started having stress now, so we have to learn to teach children how to release their stresses. From gynecological point of view, very important is childhood vaccination for prevention of diseases like cervical cancer. Okay, so we have a HPV vaccine which can be given from the ages of 9 to 14, and a catch-up vaccination can be given from age of 14 to 26, and there are certain vaccines which can be given up to the age of 45 as well. So as far as my field is concerned, from prevention point of view, vaccination is important. Now, what we see commonly in the first time from, the first second decade, that is from puberty till about 10 to 20 years of age, is irregular cycles, and polycystic ovarian syndrome has become a common thing. Many young girls, about 60%, are having irregular cycles in that age group. So it's important to recognize that, and let me tell you, 90% of them are because of the wrong lifestyle. Okay, only 10% is genetic. So this condition is becomes a risk factor for future chronic diseases like blood pressure, hypertension, heart disease, and certain cancers. So very important to recognize this condition, try to get it diagnosed properly, and start changing the lifestyle so that we don't suffer from the complications that happen. So I'm going to touch on few conditions in every decade. Divyanka, just let me know the time. How much more time do we have?
Yes, ma'am, we can go ahead for 15 minutes.
Okay. So that is the common thing which is in the first decade. Now, also it's very important to educate our children about sex. Okay, the good touch, the bad touch, while they are very young, so they understand about it. And as they grow, they are in their adolescence, their hormones are going to change, and they are going to have attraction towards the opposite sex. So there is no point in turning away from these facts. So we have to learn ourselves and let them know also about protection. Okay, so protection from getting sexually transmitted infections or protection from an unwanted pregnancy. So very, very important to be knowledgeable about how our reproductive system works, what are the different methods that can be used to protect yourself during a sexual intercourse, and from infection as well as from pregnancy. So this is the second thing which we need to understand early on in our life. So this information usually comes as a retrospective thing when people get into trouble. So it should not be like that, and you should be knowledgeable about that. Then as you grow, further problems that can come are again irregular cycles, heavy cycles. Many times you hear about fibroids, and you hear about endometriosis, and all these conditions. Basically, you have to not ignore the symptoms. Whenever the body is trying to tell you something, please visit a doctor. Try to find out what is the problem. Many things I can tell you by my experience are just require a change of lifestyle. So a lot of things are based because of the wrong habits, because of the wrong things that we are eating, because of the sedentary life. Okay? And so just lifestyle measures can take care of most things. But if at all you need the help of whatever type of medicines you are taking, maybe allopathy, maybe homeopathy, maybe Ayurveda, whatever you believe in, every discipline is going to help you in some manner. But your basic lifestyle is most important in terms of prevention, and also if you do get some disease, in terms of also reversing it, or as a treatment also. So these factors have to be kept in mind. Now, if you have been vaccinated, or irrespective of vaccination, you have to do certain screenings in your life. So it's a good thing to do your baseline blood test at least in your 30s. Okay, so you just know your hemoglobin, your complete blood count, your blood sugar, your lipid profile, thyroid, because nowadays the stress is so much that the body, certain conditions creep up much earlier compared to what it did in our generation. So young people have to be a little more vigilant you should do a basic blood screening, and then whatever it is, if it's abnormal, can be done yearly, or you could in a younger age group can be done once in 3 years, I would say, up to the age of 50. Now women in the age of the 50 plus age group, if you haven't done your baseline screening, please do a screening. So screening usually is done for normal people who are asymptomatic, and we do a blood test, we do sonography, we do a mammography. Usually all these things are done after the age of 50. Now, as we approach towards our end of so we spoke about the initial parts of puberty and polycystic ovarian syndrome, usually seen adolescent and onwards, and you get it throughout. You can get it in your 30s, 40s. You can have symptoms of those of irregular cycles can persist. And then as you approach menopause, again the cycles can become irregular. Now menopause is another very, very important transitional time where the hormones are changing, and women suddenly get lot of symptoms during that period. So one thing has to be recognized, that it's a hormonal change. Again, all lifestyle measures are going to help you sail through a smooth menopause, and getting educated about what are the things which are related to the menopause is very important, because women suddenly feel they've started getting 10 different diseases, which is not so, and you end up going to a different 10 specialists. Somebody will go to a cardiologist, somebody will go to a physician, and finally you realize it is menopause. So very important to educate yourself about what the changes are going to happen during menopause. As we grow older, if we want to prevent chronic diseases, and very common thing is fractures in older ages, then we have to be very, very mindful about strengthening our muscles. So that is when I told you about strength training should be started ideally in your 30s at least. You should start doing some strength training, building muscle, eating a protein-rich diet so that the muscles remain strong. If we see a normal Indian plate is usually very heavy in the carbohydrate part. Okay? So we will eat lot of grains, we will eat lot of vegetables which are carbohydrate rich, but we need to eat proteins also. So depending on how much we are working out, we need that much, at least about 0.8 to 1.2 grams per kg of our body weight. That is our protein requirement every day. So we need to eat that much protein. And staying active. Now the time which is recommended for different age groups is different. In children, they should be active for at least 1 hour, very good intensity workout every day. So it's very good to allow your children to go and play. Very, very important. Okay, it's just them sitting in home and playing video games or television or doing their homework is not enough. They have to play. And we as adults also need about 150 minutes of physical activity minimum per week, which we can increase to up to 300 minutes also. So these are the recommendations for physical activity. Again, when I go back to the pillars and talk about sleep, we need at least 7 to 8 hours of sleep during, according to the circadian rhythm, say starting from 11 to 7 a.m., 6 or 7 a.m. is what we require. And for facilitating sleep, basically we need to have a little early dinner. We need to switch off all our devices at least an hour before you are planning to sleep. So there are many things that you can do to facilitate sleep in case we are not able to get our target sleep. As far as the rest of the pillars, I think I've touched on the main topics. Each pillar is so much that you can go on for hours and hours about everything. But I think when you apply it personally at a personal level in terms of prevention, this is what you can focus on a daily basis, on every day, marking out time for your physical activity, planning your meals so that you are seeing that you have planned the meals for the whole week. You've got the vegetables, you've got the protein source, and you're eating more whole foods compared to trying to get foods from packets. If you plan well, then it is not that inconvenient to make a healthy meal, is what is very important. And also you have to prioritize things. So it is important to prioritize your own health, because if you remain well and healthy, then you are going to able to improve the health of everybody. Finally, we all know when a woman falls sick, the entire support system collapses, isn't it? And so for that, for our family also, we should remain well, and for that self-care is very, very important, and prioritizing that is very important. So I think that would be all for today. I would love to take any questions if any specific things are, anybody is wanting to ask something.
Anyone having the questions, please ask.
Hello, ma'am. Can I ask you one question?
Of course.
Okay, I just want to know what are the ways to manage the period pain? Like, yeah.
So basically, period pain is something, it's like a mini labor pain. Okay, so the lining gets shed every month, and as the lining is shed, the uterus contracts. Now, if you stay well hydrated, okay, that pain will remain less. If you're physically active, that means your circulation to every muscle of your body is very good, then also the pain will be less. So I'm not saying to be physically active during the periods, but you're physically active rest of the month. Okay, so a good time to be doing very good exercises are in the first half of the cycle. That means after your periods are finished, till mid-cycle you should do good rigorous activities, and as you come closer to your menstrual cycle, you can reduce the activities, and you can go for more yoga, stretching and all that. If you reduce processed foods and ultra processed foods, okay, that will definitely reduce your period pain. Okay, there are certain yogic postures which are like inverting postures, which you do regularly, 4-5 postures every day, you will reduce period pain. Now there is one pain which is called spasmodic dysmenorrhea. Means it is a pain because your cervix or the mouth of the uterus is very small. Once you have the first child, that mouth opens up, and for many women after first childbirth, the period pain will go away to a considerable degree. But if the pain is too much and it is increasing, and the pain is also coming other time than the period, then you have to consult a doctor and rule out a condition called as endometriosis. So that is important to see. Otherwise, all these lifestyle measures do wonders provided you do it. The other alternative is just to take an antispasmodic tablet and do a symptomatic relief. But holistic measures, they work wonders. I've had many patients whose period pains have reduced by just practicing yoga, just eating more whole foods, increasing the vegetables and fibers in the diet. It will make a difference.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
So Dipali ma'am, good afternoon. So this is Jyoti. I have a simple question to ask about the energy level. So generally I'm very high on energy.
Yeah.
But before my periods, I would say 1 week before,
Yes.
my mood swing is on toss. I have no energy to do anything.
Yes.
Majorly mood swings. So how to cope up? I understand the situation of mood swings because of physical issues, but how we can cope up?
No, it is not because of physical issue. It is because of the hormonal change in your body. So don't blame yourself because of it. Okay, it's something which women go through every month. Okay, so you have a hormone change that's happening, and that is the reason you have to understand that and plan your schedule accordingly. So when you are towards your periods, you need to relax yourself. Okay, take it little easy. Don't keep very important things during that time, preferably. Okay, you will be very sharp, energetic just after your periods are over. That is the time where physically in every which way you will be. But when you are about to get your periods is when all the cravings will start, the mood swings will start, the body is telling you to rest, because see, the uterus is preparing for a pregnancy every month. Once the egg is released, irrespective of whatever happens, whether it's fertilized or not, the body makes a hormone called as progesterone, okay, which is pro-gestation, and that is making you Don't do too much. Just relax. So that is what you have to listen, and you have to nurture your body and your mind. Okay, so if you allow the progesterone to be in the normal level, you will not suffer from mood swings. If your progesterone is low, progesterone is a calming hormone. It's a diuretic hormone. That means it will reduce your water also. It will reduce bloating. But your cortisol, which is your stress hormone, takes away from progesterone. The more cortisol you produce, the less progesterone you will produce. So you have to first manage your stress. If you manage your stress, you will make good amount of progesterone, and then you will not suffer from mood swings and things, which are predominantly because of higher estrogen levels and lesser progesterone levels. So this is a
resting will
chemical.
help.
Sorry.
So during this period when you actually low, so resting will help in this.
Resting will help. Of course,
And do
resting,
you
doing
recommend-
stretching, doing
Okay.
basic yoga, doing
Okay.
meditation, indulging in a little hobby will help. Listen
That
to your
was
body.
my second question. Do you recommend working out during the period?
You can work out during the period to a degree which your body will allow. That is what I meant to say. You have to change your workout throughout the cycle.
Okay, so during that you should do
Premenstrually,
light
you
touch.
may not, your body will say no, don't do. So don't do it.
Correct. So
But rest of the month you should be active. So
Yes,
you
yes.
work out according to your cycle.
So problem is that it comes to me. It's my problem actually. My whole 20 days are good. My 1 week ruin everything. And
So
then
don't
it
don't
takes-
one week just do stretches, just do that kind of thing. Don't push your workout on those days. It's fine.
One last question is regarding periods only, because that's the mess up happens. So your body crave a lot. So I am a person who never eat anything outside food. Okay. But sometimes you can't control. Okay. You
Correct.
need all
So
the
one
things
thing
to
is,
eat.
first try to not stock anything in the house. If it's there in the house, you're going to go for it. It's very unlikely you will go out, go to a shop, buy and eat.
That's
less likely.
earlier. Now you can order anything.
So that you have to be, So you stock the house with good food, good fresh seasonal fruits, lot of spices. You can spice up your food, okay?
Okay.
A lot of nuts. You can have boiled legumes, make good charts. All this, stock it up and learn to how make a quick healthy snack.
So if I want to have dessert, so should my body should get dessert? So
So
that
you
my
can have
cortisol
dessert.
levels
There's
should
no
be
problem.
normal.
Just eat something like vegetables before and then have the dessert.
Okay, so
You
fiber and then
and just you can have everything as long as the unhealthy part should be less in quantity. So 80-20 rule works. 80% of the time you eat healthy, 20% you can eat whatever you want.
perfect. I got all my answers. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Okay, I just have one last question. During the severe period pain, is it safe to take painkillers?
Yes, you can take. Why not? Just don't take it on an empty stomach. It can cause acidity. You can.
Okay.
But as I said, see, many times if you do all these holistic measures, the period pain will reduce. We usually go for quick fixes of taking a tablet. That's a quick fix. It's going to come back next month. But if you make a lifestyle change, then you would probably be free from period pains.
Thank you.
So I have one question. Is it good if we are having periods for only 2-3 days?
Now, period amount of bleeding depends on the lining, which indirectly depends on the hormones. Okay, if you're planning a pregnancy and wanting to conceive, that may be a problem, and then you need to consult a gynecologist. If you're anemic, also the body is trying to conserve blood. You may have scanty periods, but otherwise, generally, we need to treat heavier periods rather than scanty periods. But the amount of blood is variable for women. Like anything between 40 ml to 80 ml is normal. Whatever is normal for you is your normal, like that. So it's a change which is more important rather than how much.
So anyone having more questions? Hope all the queries has been resolved by ma'am. Yes. So, as we come to the close of this enlightening session, I would like to extend my heartfelt gratitude to Dr. Deepali Prabhat for taking the time out of her busy schedule to be with us today. Thank you, Deepali ma'am.
Thank you.
Your guidance on the five key pillars. Yes, ma'am. Your guidance on the five key pillars of health, insights on childcare, stress management, having healthy meals, precautions for irregular cycles and menopause have truly been invaluable. The knowledge you have shared will surely help us to make more informed and healthier choices in our lives. At Seeger International Group, we deeply appreciate your dedication and passion for women's wellness. Thank you for empowering our female staff with such valuable wisdom and for making this Women's Day truly special for all of us. Let's all give a big round of applause to Dr. Deepali. Everyone can unmute the mic so we can hear.
Thank you. It was a pleasure to speak to you all, and I thank Mr. Suresh Kumar for this opportunity, because it's always great to share with women things that they may not know and which may kind of have a huge impact on their lives.
Thank you once again, ma'am, and we look forward for staying connected and learning more from you in the future. Thank you everyone for joining. Thank you.